Hello, everyone. We are here for our Tuesday Q&A. I am excited to answer more questions. We did this last week and it was great. There were tons of awesome questions and I'm excited to do it again. So if you are joining us for the first time, I do these pop-up Q&As to answer questions related to advancing your career. So I will do my best to get through as many as possible in 30 minutes. And then I have to pop to a podcast interview, actually. So I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to join and start asking your questions into the chat. And then we will get started. So let me just pull up this event on my other monitor so I can see the questions and make sure I don't miss anything. And then we will go from there. All right, I have the questions on my big monitor and I'm gonna see your questions come in. But before we get started, why don't you guys tell me a little bit about you, where you are from, what your job is right now, and maybe one career goal you have in the next couple of months. Or maybe if you have a struggle right now and you're comfortable sharing that, put that into the chat if you want. This will just help me get a feel for who's here and what direction we could take this, but I'm guessing there will be a bunch of questions. Now, the other thing I want to tell you while you are putting your questions in is that on Thursday, this Thursday, I am going to be teaching a workshop, a free workshop on Zoom, all about how to advance your career. So if you are feeling like you are stuck, maybe you are at a skill plateau, a salary plateau, maybe you're not even sure what your next career move should be, then I would love to have you join me on Thursday because we are going to look at how do we tackle these problems that many of us face in our career by applying the same design and research, etc. principles that we use in our day-to-day job in UX, product design, research, etc. How do we use those on ourselves in our career? Because I really believe that the most important product you will ever work on is not the one for your company. It's you, the product of you and your career and your life. So if you want to join me at the workshop on Thursday, I am going to put the link in the chat. So here's the RSV for the Thursday workshop. And there it is in case you want to RSVP for that and join us Thursday. All right. I see some questions have come in. I want to give you an opportunity to keep asking them. But the first one that I noticed is regarding the job search and what to do if you have applied to jobs and you are not getting interviews. So I have a lot of thoughts on this, and let's kind of play this out with that analogy that we talked about at the beginning, that we can use product design, research, product management, etc. principles on ourselves and our career, and in this case, our job search. So if you're applying to jobs and not getting interviews, let's kind of look at this through a product manager lens. Okay, the first thing that I would be thinking about is what are all the variables kind of involved in this situation. So there are variables such as what is the story you are telling about yourself through your resume, your LinkedIn profile, cold messages you're sending people on LinkedIn or email. So there's that variable, which involves many things. The next variable I think that I would pay attention to is the jobs you're applying to. Like, are they truly a fit for what you do and what you want to do? Or are you just kind of mass applying, spray and pray, and hoping that something works out? So, those are a couple of things I would think about. There's many more, but I want to go back to the variable of the story that you are telling about yourself through your, what I call, career marketing materials. So, resume, LinkedIn profile, portfolio if you have one. You don't have to, but if you do, great. Emails, etc. If you're applying to jobs and not getting interviews, that tells me that something is not catching the attention of the people looking at those things. So you're not catching the attention of the recruiter, hiring manager, whoever is doing that first pass of those materials. So where I would suggest you spend your time and energy is to go back to your LinkedIn profile and your resume. I would focus on those to start and do a little audit of those to find out, are they consistent? Like, a lot of you spend a bunch of time on your resume and then you don't touch your LinkedIn because you're tired or busy or something. And that's even confusing when your resume tells one story and your LinkedIn tells a different story. So make sure those materials are consistent. Make sure that you are not speaking about yourself in vague terms like, I'm a UX designer. I want to make products people love and change the world. That's boring. That's not going to catch people's attention. Being more specific is going to catch people's attention. Making sure your resume has action verbs, is not using the same action verb over and over, because if someone goes through your resume and every bullet or every other bullet starts with, I designed, I was responsible for, that gets boring if every other bullet is, I designed, I was responsible for, etc. So in short, if you're applying to jobs and not getting interviews, either your career marketing materials are not doing a good job at communicating what makes you unique, and or there's possibility maybe you are applying to jobs that you are over or underqualified for. So those are the things I would think about for you. All right, I am going to go back to some questions here. All right, we have a couple of people. Someone said, you were a product designer for 8 months and you resigned to continue your studies, and you're freelancing. I love that. I love that you had such foresight that you thought to yourself, right now in this stage of my career, I really want to invest in my education and I am going to resign from my job. I think it's great. I think if you're in a job where you can think to yourself, staying in this job is going to hinder me from reaching my long-term goals, then you should not worry about staying in that job just so you're there for a year, so it doesn't look bad on your resume, because there is this misconception out there, I believe, that you have to stay in a job for a year. Otherwise, it's going to look bad on your resume, LinkedIn, etc. I don't buy into that, because if you are at a job interview and you tell me, I was at this job and I left 4 months into it because of reasons XYZ, and those reasons make sense and it just wasn't a bunch of complaining and stuff like that, I would respect that, So I think it says a lot when someone doesn't just stay somewhere for a year because you think, oh, that's how the world works. I need to stay at a job for a year or else it's going to look bad. But in your case, you thought to yourself, I could stay here or I could resign and go get the education I need that's going to set me up for the job I want to have, a year from now, 2 years from now. All right, I see some familiar names. Hello, Allie. Hello, Anne. Hey, Randy. All right, let's get to some questions here. Sorry, you guys are seeing that there are some video issues. Not sure what that's about, so I will check the video streaming software later, but can't interrupt this right now and figure that out. Hopefully it improves or it's not too distracting. Otherwise, come back and you can watch the recording, which should not have buffer issues. All right, let's see some other questions here. All right, we talked about what to do if you're applying to jobs and not getting interviews. This myth of needing to stay at a job for a year in case it looks bad. Another question I see here is, what could you do proactively in your current role to be ready in case you were facing an unexpected, layoff, or you decided you wanted to quit? You never know. Okay, so let me think. What are some quick things you could do? I mean, number one, I would invest some time to update your resume and your LinkedIn profile. Number one, the time to update your resume and your LinkedIn is not the week after you lost your job or you quit your job, or 10 minutes before you apply to a job because you saw your dream job posted somewhere or someone sent it to you in your inbox, and now you have to rush to get your stuff ready to apply. The time to do that is not, at the last minute. You're going to be rushed and you're not going to be in a great mental or emotional state to do that. So if you are, happily employed right now and looking for things you can do to kind of set yourself up for a faster and more effective job search, however that job search might come to be, definitely update your LinkedIn and your resume. I would be doing that on a quarterly basis, actually. And I know it seems excessive, but here's the thing. If you do that, if you make small updates on a frequent basis, that's going to be a lot easier than trying to sit down and update your resume with 2 years worth of work history the day before you need to apply to a job, for example. So that's one thing I would do. Another thing I would do is I would be very mindful and intentional of how you use LinkedIn. We are on LinkedIn right now, so let's stick with this social media platform. But so many jobs are found and filled through relationships, through word of mouth, through people seeing and hearing about jobs because someone posted about it in an online group or community, or publicly on their LinkedIn feed. So, what does this mean? This means that to be nurturing and creating relationships that can help you, in the short or long term, you need to be kind of investing in those relationships frequently. So for example, if you're in like groups, whether it's on LinkedIn or Slack or Facebook groups and stuff like that, I would make a point to show up in those groups and engage, meaning comment, talk to people in some frequency. I personally have a recurring task in my project management system, and I think it's every other week, but I could be wrong. And the task says go to these groups and engage. And in the task, it links to specific groups on LinkedIn, specific groups on Facebook, etc. So I don't even have to mentally think, what groups should I go to? I just go to the task, click the link, go see some posts, leave a few comments, and there, I did some engaging. I built some relationships. I showed up. Here's the reason. Because when you find yourself in a situation where you want to try and engage your community or people in groups, etc., people are going to be a lot more likely to respond and engage with you if you're a familiar face versus someone that has belonged to a group for 2 years but has never posted a thing, and then one day comes in and posts this panicked post like, oh my gosh, guys, I need help with blah, blah, blah. And everyone's like, I don't know who this is, you know? So it's about showing up. Super simple, but this little hack of creating a recurring task with links to the specific groups and communities, very helpful. So I know this was a long answer. Let's recap. If you want to be set up so that your next job search, whether that's because you initiate it or you're thrown into a situation where that's just life, be updating your LinkedIn and resume frequently, hopefully once a quarter or more. Engage in communities and groups. Be mindful about what you're posting on LinkedIn. You know, LinkedIn, sometimes I log in and it's a lot of negativity. It's a lot of complaining. There's a lot of recruiter and hiring manager bashing and stuff like that. And if you're a researcher and someone's looking to hire a researcher and they click and browse your LinkedIn profile and the last 10 posts are you not posting thoughts about research or interesting research articles that you've read or other things related to your supposed expertise as a researcher. But instead, if the last 10 posts on your LinkedIn profile are memes about how bad job descriptions are and a bunch of negativity and all this stuff, like, what is the first impression you're sending if someone is skimming the last couple of posts on your LinkedIn and it's not related to your expertise? Which candidate is going to stand out? So think about that. And if you need to have a place to vent and get stuff off your chest, maybe consider doing that privately, like create a group text with some people who you would consider like in your inner circle or something like that, and do it there. But when you post it on LinkedIn, that is putting it out there to be a part of the first impression that people have about you. So something to think about. All right, a couple of more questions here. Let's see here. I want to go back to the top. Okay, thoughts on ATS software and resumes. All right, we could do a whole series on this. Quick tips here. ATS stands for Applicant Tracking System, which is software that recruiters and hiring managers use to organize the hundreds of candidates that they deal with, on a daily basis. Helps them be more efficient in their job. Now, when you apply for a job and you're not sending your resume to a human, you are more than likely being submitted into an applicant tracking system /software. So if you're applying through, Indeed or the company's website and there's a big job board and some forms, etc., you're going into the ATS. In order to make sure that the information on your resume can be parsed or read by the applicant tracking system, do not make your resume be 2 columns. We don't have time to go into the details of this, and I don't have my visuals with me, but 2-column resumes are going to be very difficult for, if not impossible, for the applicant tracking systems to extract the information on your resume so it can then, meaning the software, can then tell a recruiter or hiring manager, hey, for this job you're recruiting for, out of the 400 applicants, here are the ones that we think are the best. If you want to be in that subset of, I hesitate to use the word vetted, but predicted candidates that the system thinks are a good match, do not make your resume 2 columns. Hands down. Don't use creative fonts. Stick with the basics, Times New Roman, Arial, Helvetica, Proxima, etc. Don't go wild with fonts. Do not use images, graphics, etc., watermarks, bar charts, any of this. It can't read that. So that is the number one mistake that I see people make. Also, for the sections of your resume, work history, skills, experience, education, etc. Just call them exactly what I said or something similar. Don't get cute with your language and creative, because you have to think of the software that will be parsing, skimming, scanning your resume. All right. That is about all I can cover for the ATS, but we cover this as like a whole lesson in my resume course. Hopefully that covers some of the top mistakes people make. And if you're applying to jobs and not getting interviews, if your resume is 2 columns, that might be why. All right. Let's see here. Brian wants to have me on the podcast. Okay, well, go to my website, career. I'll put it in the chat. Actually, I'll reply to you. We just updated our contact page. Do not DM me on LinkedIn. I get too many DMs and I will miss it. I think this is the link, but let me just double check it before I put it in there. And then fill out the podcast form. Yes. So go there and fill out the podcast form and someone will get back to you. Oh, it did it at the bottom of the chat. So you'll have to find that down at the bottom, Brian. Okay. Let's see. Marcy wants to know, how do you find these Slack groups? Don't you need an invite? So Marcy, if you just do a Google search for like, for example, for a UX researcher, I would do a Google search, UX communities for communities for UX researchers, online communities for UX researchers, some combination of those keywords, 2023 communities for UX researchers, like variations of that. Many people have done roundup style posts of communities that they pertain to, research or UX writing or design or product management, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So do some Google searches related to what specifically you do, and you will find links. Might be Slack groups, might be LinkedIn groups, might be Facebook groups. Also, like if you just search on Facebook for like UX writing community or UX researcher community, you will find communities. I'm not a huge fan of Facebook, but the group component is very strong over there. All right, let's see here. All right. Bethany said, regarding referrals, it's important to network proactively. So there's already a relationship, exactly, when a position opens up. But what to do when you become aware of a position and you have no connections at the company? Great question. The first thing I would do, I would go and follow that company's LinkedIn page and start commenting and engaging on that company's page. And here is why. Because inside LinkedIn Recruiter, there is this thing called Spotlight, meaning if I am a recruiter and I posted a job for my company on LinkedIn, and then I log in to see the candidates, LinkedIn will highlight, aka Spotlight, certain candidates. Now, a lot of things go into this Spotlight algorithm. Some of the things are whether or not you, as a candidate, have engaged with that company's LinkedIn page. Engaging meaning, react, like thumbs up, etc., and commenting. The algorithm also considers if you have engaged, commented, and are connected with people who work at that company. So, Bethany, as you said, always better to have existing relationships in place, but let's say you see a job at Delta Airlines, awesome UX job, great. You don't know anyone there, go find people there, start following them or connect with them, but connecting, following is instant. And then you're going to start to see their feeds, their posts in your feed, and then you can start commenting and reacting to their posts And in doing so, increasing your visibility literally with those people, but also to the algorithm behind the scenes in LinkedIn Recruiter that impacts whether or not you are spotlighted if you apply for that job. So Bethany, hopefully that helps you. All right, we have 4 minutes left. Let's see here. Okay, you guys are sharing some cool groups. That's awesome. Marcy wants to know, how do you get informational interviews? All right. Informational interviews can mean different things to different people. Some people call informational interviews something that might be the first interview that happens after you apply for a job. I've seen people interchange kind of like a screener interview and informational interview. I've also seen people use the phrase informational interview regarding like you just want to be able to talk to someone who works at a company or in your industry, kind of like this phrase coffee chat. So I believe I wrote an article about this. Let me see. Let me Google myself and the phrase informational interview and see what pops up. Let's see. I do have a podcast. Yes, I have a podcast about it. Look at that. Let's see if, here, I have a YouTube video about it too. I'll post both of them for you, Marcy. Okay, so I gotta go down here. Video about informational interview. There's that. And then let me see if I can find the podcast. We might not have posted it on our website yet, although if you look in the podcast, like on Spotify, you'll find it. But let me see. Oh yeah, we did. Oh no, information now. No, we didn't post it on the website yet. But if you, well, the podcast and the YouTube are the same content. So watch the YouTube and you're essentially listening to the podcast. Marcy, hopefully that helps you. And we have 2 minutes left. So I think that's all the time we have, everyone. Thank you for coming. I love our little pop-up Q&As. I'm not going to promise that we're going to do them weekly, but when my schedule permits, we try and do them once a week, although it's been a while because of the holidays, and then I got a really bad cold in January, but I'm feeling much better now. So that is all. Thank you all for coming. A couple of quick things. If you want to get notified when these LinkedIn live Q&As happen, a couple of ways to do that. Number one, you could go to my profile and click the bell icon in the top right-ish of the profile. That's going to like instant notify you when I go live. The other way, get on my newsletter. I include announcements about these in advance in my newsletter. So if you just go to, I'll put it in the chat, newsletter sign up, careerstrategylab.com/newsletter. That's another way to learn about these. And let's see. Oh yeah, the workshop on Thursday, as in 2 days from today, all about how to advance your career using product strategies, research, design, as well as some sales and some marketing. How to advance your career, get unstuck. Whether you've been working in the industry for 20 years and you're like, I don't know what to do next, or you feel like you're at a skill plateau or a salary plateau, this is for you. We are going to get super practical, super hands-on. So I'd love to see you Thursday. If you can't make it live, you can RSVP and we will send you the recording. And I think that is all. So let me grab the link for the workshop because I saw a couple of you private message me and ask me for it again. It's just careerstrategylab.com/live workshop, but Thursday workshop RSVP. I'll type it in again. All right, there you guys go. So that is all the time we have today. Also, if you want more kind of tips, listen to the podcast. It's every Monday. super short, like 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes. I don't like to do long podcasts, so we keep it short and direct to the point, super valuable. This week's was all about ghosting in the job search. So you can find that wherever you listen to podcasts. It's called the Career Strategy Podcast. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. And maybe I'll see you Thursday or possibly next week.